Could the Boston Celtics win an NBA championship within the next 5 seasons? Let's get into this. Quickly before we get the video started, if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more NBA content just like this one, hit that subscribe button and that post notification bell. Anyways, back to the video. For years now, whenever you'd have a conversation about the best up-and-coming young teams in the NBA, the Boston Celtics are probably the first, if not one of the first teams that always come to your mind. And when you actually look at the Boston Celtics organization and what they actually have on the roster, in terms of their draft picks, they have a ton of draft picks still going forward. Obviously, they don't have as many draft picks as they had when they originally made that Brooklyn Nets trade, when they traded away Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and got a ton of draft picks in return for that. But still, at this point, the Celtics do have a decent amount of draft picks going forward. And when you actually look at the roster that they have a guy in Jayson Tatum, who I personally think at the very least is going to be an MVP one day. But I personally think that Jayson Tatum could become the best player in the NBA one day. I think he's that talented and that good going forward. But also, even besides that, you have another guy in Jaylen Brown, who I also think is going to be a very good player going forward. At this point, I would say he's an all-star caliber player. And going forward, I could honestly see him becoming at the very least a low to mid-tier superstar player going forward for the Celtics. So when you talk about your top two guys potentially being superstars going forward, and they're both homegrown and drafted by you, and you have some flexibility in terms of the amount of draft picks you have going forward and some other nice players you have on your roster, you have a very bright future going forward, in my opinion. Now, this Boston Celtics team has never been a championship favorite and expected to go all the way to the NBA Finals and win a championship, but there have been a few seasons in the past where the Celtics kind of struggled in the playoffs and maybe didn't do as well as maybe they otherwise should have. Specifically, the past 2 seasons haven't been great for the Celtics, specifically last season. Of course, every team has a down year, but a lot of people expected the Celtics to do a little bit more than they actually were able to do. Obviously, injuries did play a role into their playoff success last year, or lack of success, and I would expect the Celtics to be a lot better next season than they were this previous season. Obviously, Kemba Walker was on the roster, and he didn't necessarily fit with the team that well, so that was kind of a distraction as well. There were some things going against the Celtics team, and overall, even though they haven't been great in the playoffs the past few seasons, I don't necessarily think that the players on the roster can't play in the playoffs. I think Tatum is fearless, he'll be fine in the playoffs. I think Jaylen Brown is fearless, he'll be fine in the playoffs as well. And when your main 2 stars are fearless and fine in the playoffs, I think as a roster and a team, you're going to be fine going forward. But let's quickly take both Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum's games, both point by point, to really show why I think these guys are so special going forward. So first, let's start with Jaylen Brown. So obviously, Jaylen Brown is the worst of the 2, but either way, I think he will be a superstar going forward. And I recently just made a video on why I think Jaylen Brown will become a superstar going forward. Watch that video if you guys haven't seen that. But starting with Jaylen Brown's finishing ability, that's definitely one of his best abilities. Jaylen Brown is super athletic and can easily get posterizing dunks when he gets downhill and gets all the way to the basket. Jaylen Brown is also very strong and very athletic as well, to where he can really hang in the air and push away his defender out of the way and really just muscle the ball up and into the basket. He has some nice hang time, also has a nice finishing ability in terms of his layup packages, and also has a pretty nice floater as well. Overall, Jaylen Brown is definitely very effective when getting all the way to the basket, and basically when he gets downhill, there's no way of stopping him. But now in terms of Jaylen Brown's mid-range shooting ability, I think this is his best ability. He's a very good pull-up mid-range jump shot shooter. He can also create his own shot from the mid-range area, which is very effective and really was the next step for Jaylen Brown. He also has that post turnaround fadeaway, which in my opinion is a very effective move, and if you want to be a superstar player in the league as a wing, I think you basically have to have this move in your arsenal. It really just raises your efficiency numbers as well as your point per game numbers, in my opinion, and Jaylen Brown definitely does have that down pat. And in terms of Jaylen Brown's 3-point shooting ability, this is something that he definitely worked on ever since he got into the NBA, and is really something we have been seeing a lot more of recently. Jaylen Brown has obviously been a pretty good catch and shoot 3-point shooter for a few seasons now, but one thing that he really added to his game was the ability to create his own shot from that 3-point range. In terms of pull-up 3-point shots, coming off a screen for a pull-up 3-point shot, the ability to do side steps, step backs, do a little bit of a crossover into a 3-point jump shot, just the ability to create his own shot from that 3-point range is definitely very effective in this new NBA, and that's something Jaylen Brown definitely has in his arsenal. In terms of Jaylen Brown's passing and playmaking ability, they're obviously not great at this point, but Jaylen Brown is starting to get better in terms of his offensive game, so he's going to see a lot more doubles and sometimes even triple teams, and when that happens, Jaylen Brown has shown the ability to actually find the wide open teammate in those situations, so that's something that's pretty good for him going forward. But obviously the best thing about Jaylen Brown is he's not only a very good offensive player, but he's a fantastic defensive player. He might even be a better defender than he is on the offensive side of the ball. Jaylen Brown is always guarding the opposing team's best player, and that archetype that he is in, that two-way wing, some of the best players in the NBA are in that archetype, so that's definitely something very good going forward for Jaylen Brown. But in terms of his defense, he's definitely a very smart defender, very strong defender, pushes the offensive player off the spots, he gets those poke steals in the lane, and overall he's just a great defender. But now let's quickly talk about Jayson Tatum. So talking about Jayson Tatum's finishing ability, he's definitely not as athletic as a guy like Jaylen Brown is, where he could posterize the opposing team's defender every single possession. But with that being said, I think Jayson Tatum is definitely a guy who's sneaky athletic. He definitely has the ability to posterize the opposing team's best player in terms of their defensive player, which we have seen in the past, due to Jayson Tatum's athleticism and very long arms that really help him when he gets all the way to the basket to be very efficient like we have been seeing. But the biggest ability that Jayson Tatum does have when he gets all the way to the basket is his layup packages. He has some crazy layup packages where he uses his athleticism in tandem with his crazy layup packages to where he really hangs in the air and finishes around the opposing team's best defender. And that's really one of the biggest reasons why I think Jayson Tatum is so efficient and effective when getting all the way to the basket. He doesn't necessarily rely on his athleticism each and every time he gets there. But now let's talk about Jayson Tatum's mid-range shooting ability. So this is definitely something that's very polished and refined. Jayson is able to pull up from that mid-range spot, which is a very effective shot in my opinion. He's also able to, of course, catch and shoot from that mid-range spot. He's basically automatic from that mid-range area, but one of the biggest keys to his game is that post turnaround fadeaway. So obviously, as I mentioned, I think every wing, if they want to be a superstar in this league, needs to have this shot in his game. But the thing about Jayson Tatum is he really takes it to the next level. So as I mentioned before already, he's pretty athletic. He has very long arms, which definitely helps out for this post turnaround fadeaway and making it basically impossible to stop. But even better than all of this, Jayson Tatum has amazing footwork. One of the best footwork we do have in the NBA out of all the superstars, which makes his move even that much more effective. He doesn't use unnecessary movements to get into a shot, which gets rid of some unnecessary time, and Jayson Tatum can quickly get into any shot that he wants due to his great footwork, which really helps him out in every aspect of his game, either driving all the way to the basket with great footwork, in terms of his pull-up mid-range jump shot, but especially in terms of his post-turnaround fadeaway shot, which footwork is very important in. Jayson Tatum has very similar footwork to a guy like Kobe Bryant, who he has said he's looked up to in the past. But now let's talk about Tatum's three-point shooting ability. So the best thing to describe Tatum's offensive game overall is just refined, and his three-point game is no different. Tatum is of course able to catch and shoot from that three-point range, which he's very effective at, but the biggest key is he's able to create his own shot from there. Tatum probably has one of the best side steps or step backs in the NBA from that three-point range. He's very, very effective with that. He can also pull up from that three-point range, come off a screen for a pull-up, come off a pin down for a catch and shoot three-point jump shot on the move. Obviously, Tatum's just a very good three-point shooter in general. It can do anything you want in terms of his three-point shooting ability. In terms of Tatum's passing and playmaking ability, it's very similar to Jaylen Brown. He's definitely not a great passer and playmaker, although he's definitely made strides in this previous season to get better at it. But Jayson Tatum definitely has the basketball IQ to when he gets doubled or triple teamed, he's going to most likely find that wide open teammate cutting to the basket or maybe in the corner for a wide open three-point shot. But now let's get to the topic of the video and the reason why you guys clicked on it, which is, could the Boston Celtics actually win an NBA championship within the next 5 seasons? So of course, when your two best players are Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you're off to an amazing start. Both of these guys are amazing. Jayson Tatum's already a superstar. I think he may become the best player in the NBA one day. Jaylen Brown's already an all-star. I think he'll become a superstar one day. And they're both very young and up and coming and growing. So I think that's definitely a great start for the Celtics. But when you look at the other players on the roster, they have some nice players like Marcus Smart. I think he's a good level starter in this league. A great complementary piece, amazing defender. And he's also getting a lot better on the offensive side of the ball. I think he's pretty efficient on that side. So that's definitely a good player. There's some other nice young players they have on the roster. But the two biggest things that I think the Celtics team really needs is, first, they need a true NBA center to really lock down the paint, because the defensive side of the ball has definitely been a little bit of a weakness for the Celtics team over the past few seasons, and the main reason is they have some good individual defenders on their team like Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, but when you don't have a true NBA center that could really lock down the paint, it really puts a ton of pressure on the other guys on your team to play great defense and is really difficult. But another thing I think this Celtics team really does need is that third true star. It doesn't need to be a superstar player, it just needs to be even a low-level all-star player, but a guy like that would take a ton of pressure off both Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum and really make this team a real NBA championship contender in my opinion. But to quickly answer the question of the video with a yes or no answer to whether the Celtics could win a championship within the next 5 seasons, I would have to say yes if I had to guess at this point. I think Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are just too good to not win an NBA championship, and I think eventually they'll get the help they deserve. But anyways, let me know what you guys guys think in the comments. Do you guys think this Boston Celtics roster could win an NBA championship within the next 5 seasons, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.